Good evening. Welcome to the Glazov Gang. Tonight, our best Glazov gang ever. Our three titans this evening. Joe Lappan, an existentialist at the David Horowitz Freedom Center, as well as a conservative rapper. Anne-Marie Murrell, the national director of the Politichicks. She's also a fifth-degree black belt. Be very careful when you step to Anne-Marie Murrell. And last but not least, George Clooney's look-alike. Constantly mistaken for George Clooney at the shopping centers and on the streets of Los Angeles. He is the one and only, the man, the myth, the legend, Michael Finch, the Chief Operating Officer at the David Horowitz Freedom Center.
It's great to be back, Jamie.
And the crowd goes wild. Yay. Glazov Gang members, welcome to the Glazov Gang. It's just an honor and a privilege to have you here. Joe Lappan is a new member of the David Horowitz Freedom, you've always been a member of the David Horowitz Freedom Center. You are a new member of the Glazov Gang. We tricked you a little bit by not telling you the rule. I'm very pessimistic in trying to do this after 2 years, but I'm going to still try. Mike and Anne-Marie, tell Joe the rule about the Glazov Gang.
Well, the godfather of the Glazov Gang, Dwight Schultz, told me to just take a moment of silence, so I can't say anything.
Anne-Marie?
Same thing. Dwight?
Do you know the rule, Joe?
I actually do.
Okay, what is it?
You can check out any time you like, but you can never leave. Because I'm a faithful watcher of the Glazov Gang.
Excellent. Right. And guess what? We have liberalized it somewhat because a lot of people accuse me that this is a totalitarian impulse, that you can, since we're fighting totalitarianism, we shouldn't let somebody in and then not let them out. So I've qualified it a bit. We had a staff meeting. You can check in, you can check out, but you can never leave unless you really want to.
So we're going squishy.
Yeah, it's all wishy-washy.
I tried to
we're
become.
Republicans.
You can do what you want.
I tried to become a stand-up comedian, and it's very obvious why that career path was not successful for me. One more warning, ladies and gentlemen. We have radiant brilliance and beauty in the middle here. Michael Finch and Joe Lappan, can you be on good behavior and focus while the beautiful Anne-Marie is with us? Mike?
It's going to be a challenge. I'll do
Joe?
my best.
I'll try.
You'll be able to focus on
the
What about me? I'm surrounded with hotness.
Exactly, but who made it on the Politichicks hot list?
You did, and you were number 8 in the hottest conservative Superman on a web show, and number, I think, 14 overall, and that's out of everyone in America.
So in some ways, I'm kind of like a sex symbol now.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I'm not going to say that out loud with you in the room.
Yeah.
Okay. Glazov Gang members, from the world of humor and laughter to the serious issues of our time, let us begin with the existentialist, Joe Lappan. Very recently, Obama referred to the phony scandals that the evil conservatives are exploiting and manipulating to distract the people from the utopia that he's building. I have a feeling that the Americans that lost their lives in Benghazi, I don't think those were phony deaths, and I think I could expand on my analysis, but let me go to you. What do you think about him referring to the scandals as phony?
Well, I mean, I think that's what you can expect. That's what they do. I mean, it's phony because he says it is. There's still some investigations going on, but if he can label something as phony, if he can get the media to continue to be complicit and parrot that over and over again and get little opposition from the Republicans, he'll eventually wear it down and it will become yesterday's news. But, that's the card they have to play. They can't address the scandals. They've been evasive, they've been dishonest, they've tried to block and not provided information. So last resort, just call it phony, say it enough, and it moves on. I mean, the Clinton scandal was phony until the dress appeared, right? So it's just their way of doing business. It shouldn't surprise anybody. You just have to hope that the Congress and the Republicans, which haven't demonstrated so far, actually will hold them accountable. I'm not confident they will, but I'm hopeful.
Wait a minute. You are hopeful. Expand on what you're hopeful about.
I'm hopeful that they don't let it go. I mean, you have to look at the Black Panther issue during the first election in 2008. You had Black Panthers with weapons in a voting booth, menacing voters, and that was dismissed. and the Republicans made a little noise about it, but it eventually went away after Holder's confirmation. So I'm hopeful that someday there'll be something that they'll draw the line on, but the line keeps moving.
I see. I'm a little bit. We can disagree, I guess. It's nice to see somebody hopeful. I've just lost all hope in the sense that the Republicans and conservatives are capable of any political battle whatsoever in breaking through how the left is. It doesn't mean that we're not going to fight. I'm going to keep fighting. I just mean, Joe, how is this going to happen with the leftist media building this Berlin Wall around him? I mean, it just seems like the majority in this country are now lobotomized, or they're infected with the leftist virus.
Right. Well, I said I was hopeful. I'm not confident. But if you lose hope, then you might as well cash it in. So, yes, I'm not confident it's going to happen.
Okay.
But I have hope.
We perhaps can get into that a little bit later. I fundamentally disagree that when you don't have optimism that you give up, because I believe that even on a sinking ship, you still scoop the water out. In other words, I think that the left is succeeding in destroying this country. I think that the Islamization is occurring in the West, and we are losing. But I think that we still need to keep fighting, even though we see that the battle is being lost.
Yes, it's being lost, but it's not over.
Okay, it's not over till it's over. Anne-Marie Murrell?
And you left out Fast and Furious. That's another one. It seems like as soon as all of us stop talking about it, they do too. So for me, in the media, I feel like all of us have got to hold their feet to the fire and not let it go, because it's easy to move on to the next subject. I mean, we got Anthony Weiner to talk about. I mean, every day, something new pops up that's ridiculous, that takes us away from this. And we have to stay focused on making sure these stories stay in the public, in the forefront, as much as we can, even if we're just squeaking.
Exactly, but in terms of anything really coming out of this is my point, that up till now, I mean, it's incredible what the Republicans, as David Horowitz has written in The Art of Political War, it's just a failure at how conservatives are fighting political war, even up till now. Mike?
Well, first of all, the George Clooney thing. All right, so you confused me with a squishy leftist. You can't say.
I'm talking about physical looks.
Yeah, I know, but you can't. I can't get confused with Clint Eastwood. It has to be a squishy leftist. So, all right, we'll talk about that.
I don't know, but just
Charlton
wait.
Heston.
But his
That would be
views.
fine.
That's his views. But I'm just saying he's considered a very attractive male in our society.
Right. If I get to host,
is it politically correct now, even to say by women, or I have to say by everybody, or I don't know what's allowed to be said now? But you do look a little bit like George Clooney.
Okay.
Do you get that in malls and in shopping centers?
From my mother. So that's good. You and my mother. How's that?
Well, I'm going to ask Anne-Marie. What do you think about the stubble look?
Oh, it's hard for. I just want to do this.
You don't get to do that. No.
I won't. You don't have to worry about that, Mike.
Okay.
Mike Finch, go ahead.
Okay. Well, the Republicans are scooping something. It's not water. I mean, and we can blame the mainstream media. They're not going to be on our side. We know that. The problem is the Republicans. I mean, Rand Paul spent a few weeks on the NSA, which was probably a mistake. We should. I mean, Benghazi is critical. But from a political standpoint, we need to get to the bottom of what happened in Benghazi. From a political standpoint, IRS.
Yeah.
I'd be hammering this if we have midterm elections come. Just from a political standpoint, 90% of the Americans hate the IRS. Whether you're left or right, liberal, conservative, if you get a phone call or a letter from the IRS, you start shaking. Nobody. I mean, it is the American Gestapo. We need to shut down the IRS. This is a great issue. Obama's completely stonewalling. As you said, Joe, I mean, it's gone all the way to, the man that Obama appointed, and they're still saying this is some rogue thing that happened in, Cincinnati. But I have zero hope that the Republicans are going to hammer.
Well, this is what I was going to say, that I just keep hearing conservatives talking about how we got to get to the bottom of Benghazi. We've got to get to the bottom of this. I mean, who's representing the Republicans on a lot of levels? Chris Christie, Rubio, John McCain. I mean, this is a disaster.
If there is hope, you have to hope Darrell Issa and some of the others in Congress. The investigation is going on.
Okay.
But they're trying to get documents from the White House, which of course are not being produced. They're trying to get. They need more hearings. They just have to. It may take a year or two. And you said the dress showed up. At some point, something is going to show up, but you can't let up. Obama's counting on fatigue. They're counting on the Republicans just saying, we got to worry about the economy and jobs. Nobody wants to hear about scandals, and then they give up.
Well, absolutely. Look, this is maybe for a future time. I have a bit of a chip on my shoulder with this issue a little bit, because some people think that when you say that we're losing, it means you're giving up. And, I just want to say, from the background where I come from a country where, children were raped in front of their parents, 60 million people were butchered by the communist system. We didn't have the luxury of optimism, but dissidents still fought for the truth. So whether we are losing or winning, you fight for the truth. This has nothing to do with giving up. But a lot of people I know, if you begin to tell them that the left is winning and this is happening, they just get depressed, and they can't separate their personal unhappiness with the fact that we're losing. Whereas for me, you just have to sometimes tell the truth. We're losing. Look at what's happening in terms of free speech, etc. But yes, it doesn't mean we're giving up. Right, Joe? Let me touch on that, because we're not picking on you here. We're just discussing a serious issue in terms of optimism.
No, I agree. We are losing. We're losing badly, but that's not a reason to give up. But I actually think, though, that can work in the favor, because what I've seen is with friends of mine and acquaintances who have young kids who, they work for a living, and they don't get really involved in political issues as we do, and it's not their life. And they typically, when you talk to them at the dinner table a couple years ago, be like, yeah, I agree with you, but I've got soccer games and this. Yeah. Well, it's getting so bad that they're starting to see the world their children are going to grow up to, and they're becoming active. Okay, and when that happens, there is hope, because those are the people who are going to go into the school and say, you're not going to tell my kid that. They're the ones that are going to get active. So we are losing, and it's important to know we're losing, because I think that will actually light a fire under some people that have something to lose. And if you have children, you have a lot to lose.
What I find tragic and also disgusting and enraging is a lot of these people who are, quote-unquote, waking up. My fear is that they're waking up when their wives are forced to wear burqas.
Well,
and it'll be too late. Anne-Marie?
You almost call me Annie. Hey, Annie.
My producer is always on my mind.
This is the reason why Politichicks is what we are. I've got these women activists that are involved now in Common Core. They are moms. They're the kind of women that if some child gets run over at a corner street, they will get a stop sign put up, and they will make sure that there's something done about it. That's something that I'm seeing more and more in my personal life too, that people are getting involved that were never involved in their lives politically in any aspect. That's exciting to me. That's what keeps me going and keeps me from giving up. But Bosch Foston's article was interesting about the phony scandal stuff, when he was talking about how Republicans may be letting the IRS stuff go purposefully because it's the Tea Party that's being targeted, and they're not necessarily friends, which I think is really interesting. And they made no bones about that at the GOP conference this year, the RNC.
Our first segment's coming to an end soon. We just got a couple minutes. Look, one thing that I want to break through, for instance, I'll just give you an example. A lot of conservatives sometimes saying, we're going to fight, we got to fight. Like, I just want to say, let's just look at a couple truths here. The left owns the territory in our culture in terms of how we talk about Islam, for instance. We live in a society today where you cannot say anything derogatory about Islam because it is considered a religion. So every time that there is an honor killing, when there's female genital mutilation, when there's a jihadist attack, we are not even allowed to say that Islamic theology is at the buffer of it and sanctioning it, because that's seen as racism against Muslims, when in fact it has nothing to do with Muslims, but it has something to do with an ideology. Until we can break through that, this ship is sinking. And I think that unless there's a huge turning of the tide very, very soon, that it's going to be irreversible. And that's where we're going to lose, because we can't fight if we're not allowed to label an enemy.
Right.
Mike?
Well, I'd almost go, we're losing. In a sense, you could say we've lost. I mean, are we ever going to get it back? Are we can ever get all of our freedom and our liberty back and get rid of this Leviathan state? I don't think so. I think we can try to make some progress. We can slow down the tide. It's an inevitable tide, it seems. But even if you're losing, even if you feel like the battle's lost, you still fight.
Of course, yeah. Well, I said, yeah.
So you're right. I mean, we have to. You fight to the last man, and we're going to continue to fight to save some kind of shred of our liberty.
Yeah, I think. Look, I don't want to harp on this too long. I just know a lot of people who, when they hear the way that I speak, they're like, you need to be more optimistic. And it's like, hello, I'm the one that's been fighting for 20 years and you're doing nothing, but you don't want to hear what I have to say because you want to go to sleep at night. But this has nothing to do with whether you get depressed or unhappy. I'm telling the truth in terms of what's happening. So, Joe?
Yeah, but I think, we rely too often on politicians, and obviously they're essential to our system of government. But this is only going to be fixed culture going up. It's fixed one family, one neighborhood, one school at a time. If you can affect the culture, the politicians will go. They're standing on the hill that's built by the media, by the school systems, and by Hollywood and all the influences out there.
Very wise words.
That's a great point.
Very great point, but I'm making good points too, right, Mike?
Not bad.
Anne-Marie, final words of wisdom?
When you look at where we were with Americans being completely uninvolved, where we are today, from what I see and from what all of us do, I see brilliance. I see light. And I know there's some horrible darkness out there, but I'm not giving into it, ever.
We don't give into it, and a lot of...
I'm not ignoring it either, or denying it exists.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And we will come to the end of our first segment. Joe, Anne-Marie, and Michael Finch, thank you for joining us for this first segment. And we will be back in our second segment where we will discuss a very intriguing development. The Taliban offers an American POW to Obama to release Gitmo terrorists, and he releases Gitmo terrorists but doesn't want the American POW. We'll be back in a minute to discuss that. Good night.